It's really hard to start a company, and it's really hard to keep it moving forward as well, especially if you have an AI company. You're not going to make a lot of money early on.
Why is making space travel safe the core mission that drives your daily work?
When astronauts go to space, they get exposed to a lot of radiation, 1,000 times more compared to Earth levels, which means it increases their risk of getting cancer.
Today, I'm talking to Hunain, a 20-year-old CEO. He leads Melagen Labs, a venture-based startup developing the next generation of radiation shielding.
What took Melagen Labs to achieve in a year and a half took our competitor 4 years, and they're still struggling to do things.
Wow. Your team includes members from NASA and the US Navy. So how do you manage leading high-level co-workers who might be decades older than you?
It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is you being able to deliver, you being able to provide something valuable for your end user. If you want to start a company and you're young, you're going to have to grow older, much faster, basically, and then build that maturity.
Can you tell us how you developed that mindset and how you would hire your team or your dream team? Imagine flying through space, thousands of miles above Earth, and knowing your only line of defense against deadly radiation was made by a teenager. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the AI Parenting Institute. I'm your host, Rayan Ali. Today, I'm talking to Hunain, a 20-year-old CEO who's not just talking about bold ideas, but he's creating them. He leads Melagen Labs, a venture-based startup developing the next generation of radiation shielding. He's trusted by NASA's L-Space program and the National Lab Orbital Edge Accelerator. Muhammad's material, called the MLC-1, is rewriting the playbook for protecting astronauts, satellites, and even international infrastructure. Muhammad, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
What first initially inspired you to enter the field of space? Like, did you watch a movie, read a book, or was it a certain project you worked on that really inspired you?
Originally, I'm from Pakistan, and growing up, worked on a lot of engineering projects, just small, would go on YouTube, and then would look up those DIY projects, whether it was building small robots or computer programming, and just doing things like that. I came across space, and it just attracted me a lot. I looked into the Perseverance rover, I think it was 2020, and that's when I actually moved to America, so 5-6 years ago. And even during high school here in America, I picked up my interest in space, and ultimately made that as my goal of becoming an astronaut. And while I was looking into how astronauts become astronauts and what are the challenges that they have to face, that's how I came across space radiation, which ultimately led me to do space radiation research independently. And then, did a lot more things afterwards, got into TTS, which is an accelerator for teenagers, 13 until 17 only. Got to work a lot on my goals and then build skills from both technical and business perspectives, which then, led me to do some projects alongside Google and Microsoft, and built my network around, space, and started going to conferences, learning about, what is actually the real need, and then sort of where the industry is heading towards. So that's how I just got introduced to space. And in a nutshell, it was really just about following my curiosity.
Thanks, Muhammad, for the intro. Now, I want to know, why is making space travel safe the core mission that drives your daily work?
Yeah, I think, again, let's take a step back here and then discuss what I mentioned earlier. When astronauts go to space, they get exposed to a lot of radiation, 1,000 times more compared to Earth levels, which means it increases their risk of getting cancer, which means then if we're going back to the moon and deep space missions, for instance, Mars, or, if you want to go a step further, crazy things, Jupiter or whatever, right? Radiation becomes that huge challenge and bottleneck. And not just astronauts and their health, radiation can also impact electronics. So today we've got about 12,000 satellites orbiting the Earth, Moon, and planets, and we're going to launch thousands and thousands of more satellites, meaning those are going to have much more advanced compute systems as well, which means then they are more sensitive to radiation. And, according to NASA, 38% of satellites are impacted negatively by space radiation glitches. So this means that for us to then become a spacefaring civilization and do space travel and go back to the moon and do deep space exploration, we have to solve the risk and the challenges that come with it. And ultimately, that is going to be being able to protect ourselves from radiation and then some other risks that come in when you're in space.
You believe your past experiences contributed to your growth as a problem solver. So, can you give me your personal definition of a problem solver?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an interesting question. From a leaders and managers perspective, there could be different problems going on in different departments, but your job really is to bring everybody together on the same table and then, try to explore what's going on and have them share their opinions and their perspectives. And then see where the conversation is heading towards. And from there, you look at, okay, what is core goal that we have as a company, right? Or core mission that we have. And from there, as a leader, your goal or responsibility there is to make sure that whatever decision that comes out of this conversation pushes you forward towards that one goal. So for instance, to give you a specific example, there could be team disagreements in the different departments, or there could be some sort of different miscommunications happening very frequently. And that happens when you're working either, online, remotely, or even in person. There, usually what we do at Melagen Labs is bring everybody together, what's happening, and we look at our core values, our core goals, and then we just take a decision from there. And then it just becomes sensible and first principles that, this is what makes sense to move forward from here.
Exactly. Mohammed, what does it feel like to be the co-founder of a company focused on national security at such a young age?
Yeah, I think I don't really think about, the young age factor. At the end of the day, it's really about the product and the value that you're bringing to the table and building up that maturity. Because if you think about, I'm so young, should I even be doing that? It's just, it doesn't set you up for success when you're in those conversations with, let's say the decision makers of, let's say, VP of product development or VP of engineering at some big corporation. Or for instance, when you are, talking to, let's say, generals from, national security perspective, and then can talk to them about, this is what I can deliver. Age doesn't really come into those conversations, because it's really about, okay, first, what can you deliver that would then make a positive impact on national security and the goals of America, and the strength in building that leadership in space from America perspective, if we're talking about, national security, for instance, and then protecting from adversaries, and how can Melagen Labs make that happen, for instance. So we just focus on that, and then how we can deliver, right? Then it becomes, after you prove that, okay, your product can do this, and then can, make that value by protecting certain assets, then the question is, how can you even deliver, right? Do you have the capabilities to deliver? And then it comes down to who's on your team and their background. And I think, like, when it comes to building a startup, building a company, it's really about the team play, and then how it flows together to deliver something. So back to your question again, it doesn't really matter. It's really going to be your product and how best you can deliver in those circumstances.
Adding on to that question, can you tell us how you developed that mindset and how you would hire your team or your dream team?
Yeah, great question, man. I love it. It's going to come over time. The one thing that I always tell people is really, regardless of their age, if they're building something new that they haven't done it before, they should surround themselves with great mentors who've done it before, whether it's in form of an advisor, whether it's in form of a teacher or a mentor, or, in company terms or corporation terms, it would really be like contractor, for instance, who could then guide you through the decision-making process that you then have to do. Who do you have to talk to, and what frameworks and the whole system that you have to develop to be able to build something that would add value. So I think that's key, because you get into so many different challenges and your mind starts going crazy, and then you're like, what am I going to do? But in that situation, if you have a mentor by your side, they will be able to guide you, because if the problem is related to engineering, you could have an engineering mentor. And then that's another conversation around who do you need to talk to and how do you actually get those mentors. That we could get into as well. But then, to your second question, startups don't really make a lot of money early on. It is really rare that a startup goes from, let's say, a few $100,000, for revenue to then hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue and then becoming a multi-billion-dollar company, and then beyond unicorn in like 5 to 7 or 10 years timeline. So then that means that early on, you're not going to have a lot of capital to pay your employees, or pay from the industry standards. So for instance, if the standard of, let's say, an electrical engineer in the industry is 100,000, it's really like 200,000 or like 150,000 to 200,000 range. But as a startup, you just can't do that. So then you look for people who are just really passionate and really care about what your startup is trying to solve, or what your company or as a person you're trying to solve, and bring them on. Because early on, it's not really about the money. It's really about how much effort they are willing to put in and how deeply they care about. Everybody on our team, they do have space background. They do have technical capabilities, but they don't have decades of experience other than our CTO, our material scientist, who've basically lived on the subject of radiation shielding and material science. But apart from a few other people who are juniors, but they actually really, 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 really care about radiation. And that's one key thing that we really look for when we're looking to hire. How deeply do you care about space? And then the notion of deep space exploration and humanity exploring space and going back to the moon in Mars. So I think that is a main key factor that actually helps us differentiate who's actually going to add value and be that long-term player for Melagen Labs. So it all comes down to how bad you care about certain thing. And if you could show that to us, then I think that's something that gets us to confident level to bring them on, regardless of how much experience they have and what things they've done.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that amazing advice. Now, I want to move on to something a bit different. So, Mohammed, I'm going to give you 3 gut check scenarios that every ambitious teen faces daily, reframe through your space entrepreneurial lens. And by gut check, I really mean just yes or no answers. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Scenario 1. A major space industry influencer posts a cool but slightly inaccurate photo of your radiation prototype, instantly giving Melagen Labs the social hype. You could correct the flaw, but you lose out on the viral moment. So would you let the inaccurate post stand?
I would go against it. I would fix it because, again, space is going to be a long-term play. Hype, I've touched a little bit on it, is for short plays. At Melagen Labs and as a founder, I try to stay away from hype, but we have to keep it balanced around this is something that we're building, which is new and would make impact, and this is how it's going to change the industry. And in those terms, I mean that our product would make satellites last longer. Product would streamline how you actually shield electronics and enable lower class parts that are much cheaper to fly in space compared to the rad-hardened electronics. So, if there is some discrepancy around that, and then there's some other company promoting our product in a way where it doesn't really represent what we actually do, then as a founder and CEO, it is really my job and responsibility to go after it and then clarify. Maybe if it's really a good thing, we probably have it on the roadmap, but we probably haven't made enough progress that it is ready to be in market. So I would go against it and then fix it.
All right. Scenario 2. You're hours away from a critical breakthrough test on your new shielding material. It could be a huge win for Melagen Labs, but it's also the night before a high-stakes required final exam that you haven't studied for. So do you skip studying for the test?
Well, I hope my parents aren't watching that because they don't know I dropped out of college. So I don't have any exams coming up. So that would be irrelevant to me. But I'll give you an example, though. It is relevant. I'll just give you an example. But yes, I would rather care about something that is going to change the world than an exam that could be taken later or I could get extension for. But yeah, I've paused my studies. I was doing aerospace engineering and I'm at Embry-Riddle Aeronautica University. And I paused that to go full time on Melagen Labs, and I do plan on going back to college and then finishing my degree because it is something that I care about. However, to give you an example, a few years ago when I was at TKS, the Knowledge Society, and we were working alongside Google on a project, we were working on solving the communication problems problem that was internal at Google. And I was a project manager for my team of about 4, and then we would stay up all night and work on things and then figure out how we can deliver on it, because we had only a week to deliver a solution for a problem that they had given us. It was about, and the deliverable was really about pitch deck and a video explaining how we would fix this problem that Google is having internally. So during those times, I had finals when I was studying computer science in New York City at Hunter College. I didn't spend a lot of time learning or preparing for my exams. I spent most of my time in prioritizing that slide deck that we were building for Google, because if you look two things in perspective, the nth order effect that comes out of both things. First, let's just say that you have your exam. What's going to happen if you miss it? There is still an opportunity that you can retake it or reschedule it, depending on what kind of exam it is. But mine was final. And even if you miss it, you can retake the class. You can still get the time back and then be able to get to the final stage of what you want to get to, like the marks. But if you look at what we were building for Google, the nth order effect of it is that there's high upside to it, meaning it could get you either an internship or a job at Google, because you're directly talking to VP of product development there. And those are really the decision makers. If you get them excited about what you're building, they would actually implement your solution and then give you the opportunity that you would really need, or what your ask is, if you get them excited, right? Mm-hmm. So there's more upside to it. And I'm not saying that you should skip college or you should skip exams and things like that. Those are really important things. And I think we need to promote that over time, but then you have to look into what you prioritize. It is really the impact, or, at the end of the day, the exam that you really want to care about. But I would pick the radiation tests that we would do.
And now, last but not least, scenario 3. You're building a new component. A respected older mentor from NASA quietly suggests a simpler, more cost-effective solution, but your complex, innovative design is the only one that will truly work in deep space. So do you follow the mentor's simpler advice?
I think it's a insane question for sure. Let's look at your question, right? You mentioned that I know that it's going to work, right? But how do I know it's going to work? We would have to test for it. If we have tested and we've shown the data that, okay, this is how it's going to work, and we actually have real data to back this up, meaning it is not really an experiment anymore. We have proved it with actual data, either threshold testing or space testing. So if the mentor is a true engineer, and I have a lot of respect for those people, they would understand that and they won't go against it. However, if I don't have data to back up my claim, and then if my mentor is saying something around, you should reconsider doing that test, or you should reconsider changing some aspects of your materials, or remove certain material and add certain material into composite, then I would listen to that. I don't want to go against somebody who has decades of experience. And if we haven't tested anything, then it just doesn't make sense. So always think from first principles. And I think that's something that I, always tell other people, that it just makes sense to hear people who've done it and get feedback from them. So yes, I would listen to my mentor, depending on the situation though.
Thank you for that amazing answer. Now, I want to know, your team includes members from NASA and the US Navy. So how do you manage leading high-level co-workers who might be decades older than you?
Oh, yeah. Most of the conferences that I go to, most of the rooms that I'm mostly into because of work, everybody's a lot older than, me. But then again, back to what we discussed before, it is something that I don't let in my brain or take over me that, oh my God, I'm the youngest in the room, I made it and all that. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is you being able to deliver, you being able to provide something valuable for your end user. It is really great that, and I'm really proud of it, that I'm able to do certain things that took years for others they had to go through colleges, they had to get experience, but I did it without being able to go through that process. But then it was really because I was really, really, really into it. I stayed up late. I learned what I needed to do. I learned from investors. I was able to raise capital for my company and surround myself with mentors who've done it before to then teach me how to do it. So again, like, as soon as you get into the motion and then the ego of like, oh my God, I'm the youngest in the room, you guys should praise me for that.
Yeah.
And that's where you have problems. Because again, like if you're pitching a customer, it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 40 or 17 or 16. If you could prove to them that your product is better and you can deliver and it could be scalable to their needs, it's just not going to matter. If 16-year-old is much better from a product standpoint, then the customer would go get into that. So, and it's the same notion with team as well. And I think like some of the things that actually gave me the confidence to get on that level was really stemmed from when I got elected as student body president in my high school during senior year of my high school. So when I came to America, I didn't even know how to speak a word of English. And 3 years later, I was elected as student body president. And that was during, or I think that was after the COVID-19 area, basically, COVID-19 era or time. So didn't really had a lot of friends, didn't know anything what was going on. But then again, like the hustle was there and like the desire to do something and make an impact after, you know, moving literally from Pakistan, like thousands of miles, different culture and things like that. Yeah, so I think like, and then being able to deliver on some of the promises that I had made with students who I was working for, and then working closely with my teachers and then principal and everybody else, and delivering on that, and then which then led me to become district student representative in New York. And then I was elected as project manager at NASA L Space as well. So I led a team of engineers and professionals to build Mars rover concept. So it wasn't really, I woke up and I was like, I'm going to lead a team of engineers. I had to show and prove that I could do it. And then I have that ability to become leader and deliver and execute on things. And I practiced myself and I put myself in those situations and those struggles and times where I would have to actually lead and make decisions in front of people who are much older than me, basically. So I would say I've been training for that day or like this time.
All right. Can you tell me what specific challenges you faced while raising funds and how you overcame them?
Yeah. I think like every new founder goes through this fundraising. We call this valley of death because you don't have a lot of revenue coming through, but then you have a lot of burn that's happening. So you basically have, let's say, 6 months of runway and you have to raise 500,000, $1 million or 3 million or 6 million, 10 million, whatever stage you are in, or like you have year of runway left, it's 12 months and you have to raise money in that timeline. So we were in a lot of those situations. And again, like I was lucky enough that one of my co-founder, his name's Hari Mahesh, he was at Johnson & Johnson. He was their youngest employee, self-taught software engineer, and he went on to become a VC and had experience in starting companies and raising funds as well. So I was able to learn a lot from them and then learn how to pitch, learn how to build a pitch deck. And then I was able to build a network to then get warm introductions to venture capitalists. I mean, there are different ways you could raise money. You've got angel investors, you've got venture capitalists, which are institutional funds. Those are really the main guys who want you to become a multi-billion-dollar company and a founder and CEO. And then you've got debt, you've got private markets and things like that. So it's really hard to navigate, but I think like I had to prove myself that I could do it in front of those people because, again, I don't still have a ton of space experience, but I was able to fast track a lot of it and then deliver on these. What took Melagen Labs to achieve in 1.5 years took our competitor 4 years, and they're still struggling to do things.
Wow.
And I think like doing things like that and being able to develop payloads that are being that are going to be launched next year. So we've got about 2 space flights going with actual customers. So we're launching to Sun-Synchronous Orbit, which is basically low Earth orbit, a little bit higher, where a lot of satellites are. Wow. And then there's ISS, so International Space Station. So we're backed by International Space Station, and we did that within 1.5 years. So being able to then, execute and then get commitments from customers helped me a ton. But early on, I did had to go through the struggle of learning how to actually pitch, how to get other people excited about, Melagen Labs is going to make that impact and deliver. And as a leader and CEO and the founder of the company, I'm going to be the one who's responsible for it and the delivery of those promises. So really excited for our next fundraise. It's going to happen. But again, like with the support of mentors and the community that we have in space and the other founders, we were able to get enough funds in to achieve some of our early milestones. So we're going to be, making an announcement soon about, our fundraising progress. So we've been keeping that secret, but that's going to come out pretty soon in next few weeks. So it's hard, but over time you develop skills, and as a founder and CEO, again, it is one of the most important things that you have to learn over time, how to raise money, because if you don't, then you risk your company running out of money, and then you don't have employees, you're not able to deliver your customers. So it is a key skill.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohammed, for that answer. Now, what is the main message you hope teens and Gen Z take away from your journey about starting now?
I think they really, really have to think and talk to themselves. The first question that you have to get confidence around is, why do you actually want to start a company, or why are you going to do certain thing? Because it's really hard to start a company, and it's really hard to keep it moving forward as well, at least in today's world, especially if you have an AI company, and there's just so much going around. So you have to really ask those questions. Why am I doing this? Because again, we discussed this a little bit earlier as well. You're not going to make a lot of money early on. Sure, there's big reward if your company ends up being successful in delivering on some of the promises and the goals that you have set for yourselves and for your company as a product that you're going to deliver for your customer, and then how it could scale. If you could actually execute on that, then of course you're going to make a ton of money as a founder of that. But early on, you would have a lot of challenges. You're not going to be able to navigate through those sometimes, and it's just going to be a lot of pressure. So questioning, like, am I doing this because I deeply care about this problem and there aren't many people working on this, and this is something that we really need this now, and we needed this yesterday on some of our things? I would go and push for building something if that is really my motivation. But if my motivation is that I'm going to build a big company, I'm going to get a bunch of money, I'm going to get a Ferrari, I'm going to get a Lambo, I'm going to get a house, you're not going to get that early on unless you get very, very lucky, and then you're able to execute and move really, really fast. So that's the first thing that you have to get confidence around. Why am I doing this? And if it makes sense to move forward, then talk to your end users. Just don't go on ChatGPT and be like, what is one problem that I could solve today? Just like talk to people that, I thought about doing this, and you think it will solve your problem? You think you will pay X money for this? Or do you think it would be valuable? Do you think it could scale in a way where we could integrate it into your whole company? Or depending on what kind of company you're building, if it's like business to business or, consumer or whatever that ends up being, it just depends on your end user. If there's anybody who's willing to use that. And then I think I would actually put in a lot of work and then put in a team who is going to execute on some of your goals, and then is willing to join you on your vision. And again, like, that's going to be a different deep conversation. But yeah, so I think like those first steps I would definitely do, and then I would want others to think about, because at the end of the day, building a company is not for anyone. Maybe you could start, or like, I think I should say, maybe you could just go join another startup and learn from them, and then start your thing. Just like try to build as much technical skills as you can and mature fast. If you want to start a company and you're young, you're going to have to grow older, much, much faster, basically, and then build that maturity. So yes, I would push for those things for somebody who is looking to start a company and is young.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Now, for our last question, for parents who are listening, what is the single most important way they can support a teen who has a massive, bold idea?
Yeah, I think it's like, again, first principles. If your son, daughter, whoever has a crazy idea and it's like has potential to change the world, Like, what do they have to lose, right? Like, they have
Yeah.
nothing to lose. They have nothing to risk because they don't have a family to take care of. So if they end up building company, they don't have anybody to feed. They don't have to have a stable income. I mean, depends on who you are and then your age and all that. But most people don't have to have, stable income early on. They can afford to take risks like that. And my first investor was really, really, really actually my father. I literally just got his credit card and then got what I needed to build first composite that I really needed to build.
Wow.
And fast forward to today, we've raised from venture capitalist firms. We've got a solid world-class team. We've got solid mentors supporting us. And we're going to space. And then again, like we're delivering to enterprise customers, aerospace primes, and then mid to small size companies. It's just like we're doing it. And all of that stemmed through because my father and my parents like actually supported me. So there's only, again, like upside to doing something crazy and doing something hard. And I think like parents should support, whether it's through just, financially, or whether it's just through giving them support, motivation, and then giving them the resources that they really need. If they, let's say want to learn about AI, and I think they should definitely be able to get a computer to learn about AI and then practice. But then, yeah, I mean, of course there has to be restrictions and all that. But
Yeah.
I would say like parents should do as much as they can to support, because who do they have as, young talent to go to other than their parents? So that's one thing that I'll tell, if there's any parents listening to this, I'll just tell them like my parents supported me and I'm here because of them today. So it's worth pushing for something that your, kids might think or you think it's crazy. But again, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mohammed, for sharing your stories and lessons today. It's been truly inspiring. And to every parent tuning in, remember, guiding your kids isn't about teaching them to keep up with technology. It's about supporting them as they learn to actually build a future. And for the teens, don't wait for the permission or the perfect moment. The biggest innovators start when someone dares to solve a problem others overlook. If this episode made you think differently about what's possible with AI in your homework community, subscribe and share with other family, and join us on our journey for responsible innovation here at the AI Parenting Institute. Once again, I'm Rayan, and thank you for trusting me with your time and your biggest parenting concerns. Until next time, let's keep building a future where kids don't adapt to change, they create it. Thank you, Mohammed.